Good evening, everybody. Welcome. My name is Carla Whitaker. I'm here to present a workshop called College Make It Happen. And this event tonight is specifically intended for Standley students and their parents and guardians, and anybody involved in their education is welcome as well. I will give you a couple pieces of information about tonight. This webinar will go from about 6 to 7 p.m. All right. And when I'm sharing my slide deck, I'm not able to see the questions in the Q&A. However, I have a UCSD student who is here, Oscar, and he is going to actually be monitoring the Q&A for me. Any questions that he knows the answer to, he'll be able to type you a response directly. But if he doesn't know the answer or wants to, if it's something that maybe applies to a lot of people, he's going to unmute himself and ask me the question aloud so that I can address it for everybody. So I want to thank everyone for coming. For a lot of people, it's been a long work day, a long school day, a long childcare day, whatever. And I appreciate your time coming to learn a little bit about college. I also want to say that this is being recorded and I will make it available so that you can view it after the fact. And also the slide deck that I am sharing, I will also make that available to view after the fact as well. Okay, and again, I know you're not able to type into the chat. We're saving that so that Oscar can use that area if he needs to paste a hyperlink in there so that you can get a link out of there. But you're not able to actually use the chat. You're going to need to use the Q&A. So if you look down at the bottom of your Zoom screen, that is probably where you will find the Q&A button. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I do encourage questions. You have my email address if you registered for this. And so you're also welcome to contact me with any questions afterward, or if there's something that you don't want to put into the Q&A, but you want to ask me individually, I definitely welcome that. And I will do my best to answer your questions. So let's get into it. Let's talk about college. And I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Okay, so as I mentioned, my name is Carla. If you're watching this and it's recorded after the fact, today is March 21st of 2024. I work for the San Diego and Imperial Counties California Student Opportunity and Access Program. We're one of several CalSOAPs throughout the state of California. Our area that we cover is San Diego and Imperial Counties. We do have a presence on social media. So we are on X, formerly Twitter. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We might be on TikTok. If TikTok remains a thing, we'll see. But in any case, you're welcome to follow us. We also have an old-fashioned website at calsoapsandiego.org, and we have a YouTube channel, etc. So if you want to follow us, or if you want to get me to email the monthly newsletter we have, any of that, just go ahead and contact me. And I just want everyone to know that CalSOAP is an organization that everything is geared towards students going on to a post-secondary education after high school, and that everything we do is free. So if you see any services like a CalSOAP college fair or a CalSOAP workshop or any kind of program, that's always going to be free. Okay. All right. So heading into college, all right. College in its simplest terms is school that you can attend to prepare you for future jobs and careers. And for students, if you don't know this already, one difference between college and earlier education is that you choose your classes and you choose your major, okay? So what is a major? In case you don't know, probably adults do, but students, if you don't, a major is basically the subject in which you're taking the most college classes in while you are working on an undergraduate degree. So sometimes students say to me something like, well, I love animals. Can I major in animals? And I'll say, no, there's not a major in animals, but maybe there's a major in biology or animal husbandry or veterinary medicine or something like that. Or if they say, well, I love books. Can I major in books? I'll say, probably not, but you might be able to major in something like English or literature. So these are some examples of majors. There are dozens, if not hundreds of majors available, but some that remain really popular would be engineering, business, any of the sciences like chemistry, physics, biology, English, communications, computer science, very popular, visual and performing arts, education, if you wanted to maybe get into teaching. So those are all examples of things you could choose as your major. By the way, although you have to usually put a preferred major, a first or second choice major on a college application, you can change your mind, and most colleges don't require you to commit to that major, absolutely commit to it until somewhere around your junior or senior year of college. So just FYI on that. All right, so if your students are with you, or students if your parents are with you, these are some discussions that I really encourage you to have on a regular basis, because sometimes things change. You don't know what you don't know. Maybe one year you think that you're going to be a dolphin trainer for SeaWorld, and the next year you're going to be a police officer, and the next year you're going to be a doctor. So these are some good things to talk about to get those conversations and get those thoughts going. So students, what's your favorite subject? Do you have a favorite subject in school that you are really passionate about, or you really enjoy going to that class? Another great question, or another great conversation starter, is what problem in the world do you want to solve? If there's something that you see in the world that's an issue or a problem, maybe you want to solve that issue or problem. Maybe you want to help, cure cancer. Maybe you want to help people that are experiencing food insecurity. It could be a million things, but what problem in the world do you want to solve? Also, do you have a dream job? Have you ever thought, oh, this would be the dream job? This is what I would love doing more than anything else. Another good thing to talk about is, have you thought about what college you want to attend? Is it close by? Is it far away? Do you want to attend it because you've heard that they have a really good football team? Do you want to attend it because you heard they had a really good physics department, or a really good music program or film school? Where have you thought about attending college? And if you have a career in mind or a job in mind, what training or what type of degree or degrees do you need for that career? So the first thing, instead of starting at college, it's a good idea to start with career and jobs, and then research that career and find out, okay, well, what education do I need for this career? Am I willing and able to do that education? And you can start to look around and experiment and research and find out different things. So college, it does cost money, and it also is an investment in the sense that your average weekly, yearly, lifetime earnings, the more education you have, on average, the more likely you are to have more earning potential. So what this slide shows, for example, is the median weekly earnings based on someone's education level. And you can see that it goes up from graduating from high school versus not graduating from high school. That is going to make a difference and impact in the potential, your earning potential that you have in a week, in a year, in a lifetime. It goes up again with some college. It goes up again with a bachelor's degree, and again with a master's and a professional or doctorate degree. So again, sometimes students say, but so-and-so didn't even finish high school and they're a millionaire. Absolutely true. If you have amazing luck or amazing talent or something like that, then that is possible. And also, guess what? Are there people with a doctorate degree who are not making any money? Yes, because you have to have the right situation. You have to work for that money. You have to be able to do your work. So this doesn't guarantee any kind of income, but it's just showing you the more earning potential that you have. And I like to show this slide as well because it shows over the course of a lifetime, the difference in your earning potential on average. Again, if you don't finish high school, if you do finish high school, if you get a little bit of college, more college, maybe a master's, doctorate, or professional degree. So some students have pointed out to me that the person who did not graduate high school, on average, they make about $1 million, which sounds not bad, but I do point out that over the course of 40 or 50 years of work, and with inflation, that might not be enough to sustain you in an expensive city like San Diego, depending where you want to live or settle down. So again, you just have more earning potential, the more money, the more education that you have generally. Oscar, I know I'm talking a lot, so I'm just pausing. Is there anything in the Q&A that I should address?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. All right. And another reason to go to college, it's not just for the career training part. College can be fun, and you will learn a lot about learn a lot about academic subjects as well as just about life, and you'll grow as a person. Colleges always have sports available. They'll have athletics departments. If you like to play a sport, whether it's competitively or whether it's recreationally, there will be programs available at colleges, or maybe you just like to attend basketball games, swim matches, softball games, whatever it is, well, colleges have that available. With many of them, you can also study abroad. Study abroad means that you can take a quarter or a semester and study in another country usually. Sometimes you get to learn another language, and a lot of times maybe you're not taking full-time classes there so that you have a little bit of time to learn about that culture and that country. And a lot of times your financial aid package that is covering you at college will also cover those similar types of expenses, even if it's in another country. So study abroad is a nice opportunity that colleges can offer. It's a place to make connections with people, and a lot of times you make lifelong friends there. Colleges will have clubs, they'll have leadership opportunities, they'll have community service opportunities, jobs and internships. It's a great place to find a mentor. It's also a place where you get access to things like a student health center where you can go if you're sick or injured, a career services center where you can go if you're looking for a job or you want to learn how to write a resume or practice interview skills. There's centers like a Black Student Union or a MECHA, an Asian Pacific Islander Club, LGBTQ, lots of student organizations. And also college students, although they're paying for college, they do get discounts to things like college student movie discounts, restaurant shows, technology like Apple, Amazon, things like that. So there are some benefits to being in college as well. I like to use this combination of two words, Iki and Gai, Iki meaning life and Gai roughly translating to worth. What is your life's worth? What would be your life's purpose, students? What reason would you have for getting out of bed every day? I tell students, talk to your parents, talk to other adults that you know, and ask them, do you like your job? And you'll find that some adults really don't like their jobs. Some adults are kind of okay. They're like, well, it's okay. And some adults love their job and they're really passionate about it. I would hope that whatever job or career you choose, it can be something that you can support yourself and be independent. But also, I hope it's something you don't resent and something you don't hate. I would definitely like students for you to be able to choose a job or career that fits you. It fits your personality, it fits your skills, and it's something that you actually maybe like to do every day instead of something that you just have to do every day. I know we all have to do it, but hopefully we have to do it, but also we like it sometimes as well. All right. So when you're thinking about this, what is my life worth or what should I devote my life to? In terms of finding a career, you want to think about these four things. What do I love? What am I good at? What does the world need? And what can I be paid for? Sometimes you might fulfill two or three of these categories, but not all four. And like, for example, I can think of things that I love and that I'm good at, but I can't necessarily be paid for them. All right. So you want to hopefully think of something that ticks all these boxes. And it can be a challenge, but it's good to start thinking about it now. And you want to think about it not in terms of pigeonholing yourself or committing yourself to something when you might change your mind. It's okay to change your mind, but it's good to start your thought process thinking about these things. Sometimes people say, well, I know what I love, but what? Like, I love music, but what does that mean for a career? Or I love animals, or I'm passionate about the environment, but what does that mean for a career? I'm going to recommend to you a couple of really good websites. ONET Online is a really good one to start looking at career research. And one that's really, really student friendly, like for middle school age students, is California Career Zone. So if you go to cacareerzone.org, there's all kinds of like interest inventories and self-tests that you can take to find out it'll ask you questions like, do you like working with numbers or with people? Do you like working inside or outside? All these kinds of questions to kind of help you figure out possible jobs and careers that align with you. Okay. Anytime you're researching a career, you don't want to have to do too much right now. If you're in 6th or 7th or 8th grade, this, you don't, this can wait a little bit, a little while. But if you are looking at careers, 2 pieces of information that's good to find out about it is just simply how much education does it take and how much money can you make? Okay, how much education does it take? How much money can you make? Whether you want to be an engineer or a professor or a teacher, if you want to get into money, business, or accounting, nursing, counseling, therapy, like physical therapy, occupational therapy, if you want to become a physician, a surgeon, a doctor, a lawyer, a veterinarian, whatever it is, just kind of do some simple research and you'll quickly find, okay, how much education do I need? What's the total amount of education that I need? And about how much money would I be making? Those are really good things to know to start out with. Also, if you want to remain in San Diego Workforce Partnership has a really good website with lots of resources about jobs that are specifically in this county. And adults, this is for you as well. So it gives you the priority sectors in San Diego. Like we have a lot of healthcare here. We have a lot of life science and biotechnology here, a lot of information technology, a lot based on education, public administration, some not basic, but more advanced manufacturing, like of electronics and things like that. So workforce.org it also has these posters that you can download and things like that that show different occupations and those same things I talked about, how much money you can make and how much education you'll need to get into that field. All right. So now I'm going to start getting into some of the nitty-gritty and some of the acronyms that go along with college. Once you get into the specifics of any subject, right, everything has an acronym: GPA, AP, A through G, SAT, ACT. I'm just going to make sure it's clear what these things are and so that you're familiar with them. I think probably everybody knows what GPA is, grade point average. Usually it's on a 0 to 4 scale, 0 being the lowest and 4 the highest. So if you got straight A's in every class, you would have a 4.0. You'll notice that some students in high school, for example, will have higher than a 4.0. They may say something like the average student who's accepted to UC San Diego has, on average, they have a 4.3 GPA. Well, how could they have a 4.3 if it only goes up to 4? Well, the answer is they look at a weighted GPA where you're getting extra points for a UC approved honors or AP course. Okay, so this brings me into the next section, which is AP, Advanced Placement. So AP classes are optional. You could call them college level classes that are offered in high school that basically indicate that if a student can be successful in an AP class, then they will probably be ready to handle the rigor of a college level class. Okay, there are 2 kind of benefits or components to an AP class, and they are separate. Okay, one is that there is an AP exam given in May. And if you get a 3, 4, or 5 on that exam, most colleges will actually award you college credits or units. So instead of going into college with 0 units, you might go in with 4 or 10 or 12 units of basically college credit. And that's if you do the exam. Okay, the other part of an AP class is just the class itself. You're taking it as a class, you're getting high school credit for it. And if you get a grade of an A, a B, or a C in an AP course, that gives students an extra +1 point in their high school GPA. So that's how someone can get above a 4.0, because instead of the A being worth usual 4 points, it's worth 5 points. Okay. A through G is a pattern of classes that makes colleges able to tell that you're prepared for a college curriculum. And I will get into that in a future slide in just a couple minutes. And I also want to talk a little bit about SAT and ACT. This is kind of my area of specialty, but it has changed a lot in the last few years. And so I also want to open it up and see if anyone has questions on these. But I will say this. So it used to be that at, say, a community college, an admissions test like an SAT was not required. That's still the case. For many 4-year universities, if you wanted to go there and start as a freshman, like say UCSD or SDSU or USC, okay, that you would have to take a test like the SAT, an admissions test, or the ACT, your choice. And depending on your score, that was a factor that they weighed when making an admissions decision about you. All right. Then the pandemic happened. And there were a few years when students couldn't really take this test. And so colleges were forced to use other means to decide on who to admit. And mostly they based it on grades, on GPA, and on your classes, and sometimes on other factors like extracurricular activities or college essays. At this point in 2024, some colleges have now decided to continue and be test blind. So for example, in the state of California, all the public college systems have test blind admissions protocols. So the community colleges, the UCs, and the CSUs, none of them use an SAT score when they're considering a student for their application for admission. Okay, you could take it and submit it after the fact, and it could be used for course placement, but UCs, CSUs, and community colleges, they do not use the SAT for admissions at this point. I don't believe they're going to be going back. In terms of private colleges or out-of-state colleges, many privates have gone either test blind or we'll say test optional. Test optional means that you can take the SAT. If you like your score, you can submit it, and it could weigh beneficially on your application. If you don't take it or don't submit it, that's also okay. There are a few colleges, you might have heard in the news recently that some really elite selective colleges are going back to requiring an SAT for admissions. So if you're looking at a University of Florida, if you're looking at Georgetown, if you're looking at MIT, what else? Dartmouth is another one. There are some that, and I would probably say it's only about maybe 15 or 20, but there are some universities that do require an SAT for admissions or will start doing so again. All right. Also, you might have heard the SAT is changing, and actually as of this month, as of March, for the first time, it was given completely digitally. It's not paper and pencil anymore. It's online. You take it on a Chromebook or a laptop. And it's a little bit shorter. It's a little bit different, but it's all digital now. And the PSAT that you take to practice for it is also. So if your student is taking the SAT because they want to apply to a college that requires or maybe recommends it, it's something you usually take in your junior year of high school. Okay. Any questions, Oscar, on anything on this slide that I can answer? All right, doesn't seem so. Okay. So when colleges are looking at your admissions application, especially a selective competitive college, one of the factors, not the entire factor, but one of the factors is GPA. So what GPA do they use? Your high school GPA, your middle and high school GPA? Do they use all grade levels? Does PE count? Is it weighted? Is it unweighted? It's going to depend on the college. I can tell you exactly what the UCs and CSUs are using when they're looking just at the GPA. The UC and CSU GPA they're looking at when they look at a college application for a freshman, in other words, a 12th grader who wants to go right into their freshman year at university, that's a GPA based only on classes taken in grades 10 and 11. Okay, only based on grades taken in classes in grades 10 and 11. Okay, so in other words, you're applying, let's say by November 30th of your 12th grade year. Well, you don't even have your first semester 12th grade grades. They're not out yet. You haven't finished those classes yet. So you're going to list your fall semester 12th grade classes as in progress. You'll list your spring ones as planned. Okay, so they know what you're taking or what you're going to take. But as far as the GPA, it's based on 10th and 11th grade courses. It is weighted, so you do get extra points for approved honors and AP classes, although they do cap it at 8 semesters total of AP. There is a limit, okay? So in other words, even if you have every single class as an AP class and you've taken every AP class that's possible, they're going to cap it at 8 for everybody, and everybody has that same cap. Okay. Also, they're not going to include a non-A through G class like PE is not going to count in your grade point average. It's only based on A through G courses, and I'll get to what those are in just a second. Also, D's or F's in any year or any class can disqualify you. The CSUs and the UCs, they have that certain standard where they don't want to see D's or F's on your transcript. However, if you say you get a D, for example, and then you take a class, you take it the next year, or you take it in summer school or a college class to make up for it, then, you know, that will that will, I don't want to say make it okay, but that will make up for the D or F. It'll make it so you're eligible for admission. Okay, before I go on to A through G classes, any questions on GPA, Oscar?
Not yet, but
Okay.
a good thing that to tell them is also it does count after they get accepted. Like after they get accepted, they also get an F. It would can rescind the offer of acceptance.
Absolutely. So if you're in 12th grade and oops, you got senioritis and you failed one of your classes, like in fall or spring semester of 12th grade, and they've already offered you admission, they can take that offer of admission back. That is true. So even though they're not using it when they're making their initial decision, they will look at your grades and they do ask for your final transcript in June of your senior year. So yes, that's true. Good point. Thank you. All right. So,
Also,
oh, go ahead.
also another question was asked us, do they look at extracurricular classes?
Ooh, extracurricular classes. This is a good question. Okay, so it depends where that class is going. If the class is going on the high school GPA and you're getting high school credit for it, then yes, they will look at it if it counts as an A through G class. If you go to ucop.edu or if you Google A through G guide, you can look up the school where you're taking that class. You say extracurricular, it could be maybe at your school or a different school or a college or an online school. You have to check and make sure that that school has offered approved A through G classes. So they're looking at it if it's an A through G class, and if it goes on your high school transcript, probably. If it's not an A through G class, probably they're not looking at it. Although if it's a college course, they might be. I know it starts getting sticky. Like, what if it's online, but it's high school, it's not college? I know there's a lot of kind of tricky questions that you might have to contact an admissions office specifically about, or you might want to email me about them and describe the class so I can try to look up an answer for you. Okay. All right.
Also, go on another question somebody asked is, are they able to get AP class at 8th grade?
So typically there are very few schools that I know of that would offer an actual AP course in 8th grade. Also, you want to consider that if you take an AP course in 8th grade somehow, even though that's great and you're showing that you can handle college level rigor, or maybe you're getting ahead in an area, remember that that's not going to count in your weighted 10th and 11th grade GPA for a college. So it might be better to wait. However, the AP exam, you might be able to take through a local high school. Like I do know, for example, some people who are competent in another language, like Spanish, for example, and they'll take an AP test in that language, maybe as young as 8th grade. That doesn't mean they're getting a grade for it. It's not going on their transcript, but if they get a 3, 4, or 5 on the test, on the AP test in May, that could, that's something you can report on your college application. And that is something that might get you college credit, even if it's taken as young as 8th grade. However, there are not many schools that I know of that offer an AP course as young as 8th grade. Usually they don't really start offering them mostly until 10th grade in most schools. Okay, so these are the basic requirements in terms of how many classes and what types of classes you have to take for a college to say, okay, you look like you are ready for college level curriculum. In high school, you need to have taken at least 2 years of history or social science, 4 years of English, 3 to 4 years of math, 2 to 3 years of science, 2 to 3 years of a language other than English, 1 year of visual or performing arts, and 1 year of an elective that could be anything chosen from the above A through F list. Let me get into a couple details here. For the most part, area A, B, D, F, and G, those all are taken in high school. They will, however, look back as far as middle school for area C, which is math, and for area E, which is language other than English. So for example, say you're taking integrated 1-2 in 8th grade, okay, integrated math, or maybe algebra, depending on, what your school offers. A college will look back as far as middle school to make sure that you've done, part of those years of the requirement. I also want to point out that what is this 3 years required, 4 years recommended? At a lot of universities, they're competitive. In other words, not everybody gets in. They have more applicants than they have spots for. And so one of the ways that you can make yourself more competitive is not just doing the basic minimum requirement, but going above and beyond and doing what's actually recommended. Okay. So if it says 3 years required, but 4 years recommended, and you really want to get into that university and they've recommended a fourth year, take that fourth year. Okay. That's my strong recommendation is don't just do the minimum if it's really important to you to get into that certain university. I also want to address the other area where they look at middle school grades and so forth, and that would be a language other than English. So say that in 8th grade, you're taking Spanish 1, 2. They look at that in 8th grade, and then say you go on to take Spanish 3, 4 your freshman year and Spanish 5, 6 your sophomore year, and then you're finished with your, well, technically you're done with 3, 4, but if you're going that extra recommended year, something like Spanish 5, 6 would be the recommended level to take. All right. And again, if you look up an A through G course list, you can find a school like your middle school or University City High School or whatever school you're feeding into. And you can find out for a given year, like what are the approved A through G courses for this school, this specific high school. Any A through G questions out there?
There's a question not relating A through G, but it's just asking about college classes versus AP on classes, like dual enrollment versus AP.
Okay. So it's going to depend on the university that is evaluating your application packet, okay? But if the question is, do colleges look upon more favorably, do they look upon an AP class or an AP test more favorably, or do they look at a community college or a college class, like maybe you're taking something CCAP or dual enrollment where you're getting high school and college dual credit at the same time? How do colleges evaluate that on an application, I think is the question here. What I have always been told, at least, and I'm not familiar with every single private university, but a lot of universities, they basically view those equally. In other words, if you take an AP class, awesome, and you get that extra 1 point in your GPA. If you take a college class or a community college class, you also get that extra 1 point in your GPA. And they look at those as roughly equal. Okay. So either way, you're taking a class that is kind of like college level difficulty. And whether or not you take the AP test or exam at the end is kind of a different issue. But in terms of how do they look at the classes, the admissions departments of most universities look at those as roughly equal. So there's not one that's better or worse than the other in most cases. Okay. I want to point out that remember that A through G and GPA are two totally different things. So when they're looking at you for admission and they have all these different factors they're looking at, like what school did you go to? What's your GPA? What A through G classes did you take? What are your personal insight questions? What are your extracurricular activities? Those are all different factors. So even though the GPA is only based on grades that you earned in your sophomore and junior year of high school, when they look at A through G classes, they're not just looking at sophomore and junior year. It's based on all your approved classes in grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. And again, they even look at middle school classes for math and language other than English. And it is balanced by how many courses your high school offers. So if someone lived in the middle of a rural community where they only offer one AP class, they will make sure, the college admissions office makes sure that that student isn't evaluated on the same criteria as someone where there are 10 or 15 or 25 AP classes offered at a high school. All right, so they do look at it in the context of your school. Okay, so if I ask most students, how long does college take? A lot of students say 4 years. If I say, how long does it take to get a college degree? They'll say 4 years. And what that's probably based on is if you are aiming for a bachelor's degree and if you are going as a full-time student. Sometimes because high school and middle school are very much like, you know, everybody goes through 7th grade, 8th grade, and it's based on a year at a time. College is different. Okay. Some students go part-time. Some students go full-time. Some students go, this is not an official term, but mega full-time, meaning they take extra classes, as many as they can every quarter or semester, and even summer classes. Okay. So It does depend if you're going to go part-time or full-time. It depends on what area you're studying and how easy or difficult it is to get classes in that subject. It also depends if you change your mind or change your major multiple times. That might mean more time that it might take to graduate. What if you take a break? What if life happens and you have to take a quarter or semester off? And also, that's just for a bachelor's degree. There are many different other types of degrees and certifications that can get you into certain careers. So I'm going to kind of break it down for students so they can see what levels of education might be needed for what types of jobs. I certainly don't have every type of job here. I just am using a few random ones, but if you wanted to work in an office as an assistant, or if you wanted to work in an auto shop and do automotive repair, usually you're looking at a certification course at a community college or a career or technical college that will probably take less than 2 years to get into that field. Okay. What if you wanted to be something like a dental hygienist, a paralegal where you work with lawyers, you work with attorneys, you're not an attorney yourself, but you work in a legal office, or maybe you wanted to work in an accounting firm. That would probably take about 2 years, and you could get that in an associate's degree program at many community colleges if they offer that program. Now, to get a bachelor's degree, there's two ways to get it, and I'll go into that in a moment. Let's say you wanted to be a marketing manager. Let's say you wanted to be an engineer. Let's say you wanted to work at City Hall. A lot of these types of jobs will require a bachelor's degree, which again, on average takes 4 years, but that's if you're going full time, okay? Could be a little more, could be a lot more, could be a little less, okay? If the job that you want requires more than what we call an undergraduate degree, then you have to apply to graduate school and go a little farther. Okay, so if you look at the school where you're at, students, you'll notice that all the teachers, all the counselors, they all had to go to graduate school. They all had to get a teaching credential and sometimes a master's and sometimes more. If you want to be a school counselor, a school teacher, an occupational or physical therapist, that all requires some kind of certification in a graduate program after getting your bachelor's degree. If you wanted to become a lawyer, then after you get your bachelor's, you'd be applying to law school. And again, this is just an average. If you're going full time, law school is usually about 3 years. You would get your Juris Doctor degree, and then you would also have to pass the bar test, take and pass the bar in order to practice law in a given state. And I would say some of the jobs that take the highest amount of education would be the doctorate degrees. So to become a medical doctor, a veterinarian, a dentist, you would have to, after your bachelor's degree, you'd have to apply to med school or veterinary school or dental school. And that's usually an additional 4 years, plus you have internship and plus residency after that. So some of these careers, they might take 10 years or more after high school to get into. Some might only take 1 year. Some might take 4 years, 6 years. It really depends where you want to go. Oscar, any questions so far on this?
A good question that I answered was in regards of middle school. They did 2 years in middle school of another language. Would
Yeah.
that count for high school for their A through G?
I'm sorry, say it again. If they tutored?
No, if they did for their middle school years, so they did the other language, would that count for high school? I said they need to do the load test.
Yes, yes, it would. Yes. Some people do finish, by the age of 13 or 14, and they're finished with their A through G language requirement. So that does happen. Yeah. Okay. So there are 2 different ways to get a bachelor's degree, probably more than 2, but I'm going to focus on the main 2 ways and talk about benefits and limitations. So you could do 4 years at a university. Say you wanted to go to UC San Diego, San Diego State, Point Loma Nazarene, USC, Stanford, whatever. You start there, get admitted. You go as a freshman, a sophomore, junior, senior. You finish your senior year in college, and you get, let's say at the end, you get a degree in chemistry. Okay, you get your bachelor's in chemistry. Another way to get that same degree is you start and go 2 years to a local community college, okay? And then you apply to transfer. Say again that you transfer to UCLA and you finish your junior and senior requirements at UCLA, and you get your degree there in film studies. Okay. At the end of those same 4 years, both students would have, in essence, a bachelor's degree. Okay. And it would say the name of their university that they graduated from. So, what would be the benefit or drawback in each of these scenarios? One of the, if you want to call it, benefits of starting your first year, your freshman year at a 4-year university, is sometimes people really want that college experience. They want to live on campus. They want to live in a dorm. They want to just get kind of completely surrounded by all the opportunities and all the things that are at that university. And including the sports and the clubs and everything else. And they want to do that from the beginning. So what would be a drawback of doing that? In some cases, the university tuition is prohibitively expensive. And when you go 2 years to a community college, the tuition is extremely affordable. Technically, it's free right now for California residents, and I'll talk a little bit about that. One of the limitations would be that community college, very few of them offer a wide range of bachelor's degrees. Usually the highest you can get is an associate's degree at a community college. And but again, the benefit is that that first 2 years, when you're getting that same general ed requirements, it's a lot more affordable. But you probably won't live on campus. I will say, though, City College is building dorms. So there are dorms coming to community colleges. San Diego City College downtown is going to be one of them. But generally right now in Southern California, there's no community colleges with dorms. All right. I'm going to go really quickly through the next slides because I want to get to money matters. I know that especially a lot of parents are interested in listening to, let's talk about grants and loans and scholarships and paying for college. So I'm going to quickly go through the systems of higher ed, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. Okay. So the 3 public systems we have here are the community college system, the CSUs, and the UCs. And then we also have vocational and private universities and private colleges as well. Okay. So for what are they looking at to consider you for admission? At a community college, it's not considered selective or competitive. They're not basing it on your GPA. All you have to do is either be 18 or have a high school diploma or GED and apply on time. Okay. For a 4-year university, it is more selective and competitive to get in. So they are looking at your grades, your courses, and some universities consider additional factors like an SAT score or your extracurriculars, your community service or leadership. They might have you write a personal statement, an essay, or a personal insight question like the UCs do. So for the community colleges, I'll kind of go into, with each of these, I'll go into what are the benefits, what are the limitations. Benefit of a community college is there's always going to be one close to home. We have 8 in this county, 8 different community colleges. The admissions process is not competitive and the application is free. It is extremely affordable if you pay out of pocket. However, if you apply on time, you fill out the FAFSA or DREAM Act, and you're a California resident, you could get free tuition for 2 years. If you're a California resident, so if you start community college right after graduating high school, your first 2 years of tuition is basically free because of the promise. So that's awfully nice. You'll get similar general ed as you would get at a university. They all have programs where you can apply to transfer to universities when you're finished at the community college. Limitations, the highest degree you can get is an associate's, and most of them do not have dorms. All right. I do want to point out, I just want to showcase some of the local community college programs that they have available, especially for these types of fields. If you want to become a firefighter, I would absolutely encourage you to go to one of the following, either San Diego Miramar College, Southwestern College, or Palomar. Those are the 3 in the area that have a fire academy. If you want to get into nursing, maybe not get your bachelor's in nursing, but become like a nursing assistant, San Diego City College and the College of Continuing Education have programs for that. If you want to be a personal trainer, they offer that program at City and at Miramar. If you want to get into phlebotomy, San Diego Mesa College has a phlebotomy certificate. If you want to get into cosmetology, City College is the place to go. Culinary arts and cooking and baking, Mesa College and the College of Continuing Ed have those programs. If you want to become a veterinary tech, like to not necessarily be the vet, but work in a vet's office, Mesa College has a program for that. Grossmont College has a respiratory therapy program. City College has a really good music production program. So kind of keep in mind that if you're looking to get into these fields, there's some great local programs available. The Cal State universities are a very traditional setting. It does have an application fee. They do look at your A through G coursework. There is a minimum of a 2.5 GPA. They're no longer looking at a test score like no SAT or ACT. There are 23 CSU campuses. They're public and comparatively affordable for California residents. They offer bachelor's degrees and higher, the option to live on campus. And you might qualify for, if you don't qualify for a low income scholarship, you might qualify for the middle class scholarship. However, CSUs do have some majors that are really competitive or capped, limited to get into, and they are more expensive than a community college. All right, the UCs is the next public system. There's 10 of these. You could apply to 9 of them right out of high school. San Francisco is only a graduate school. They also have an application fee. They're also looking at your A through G courses. They have a 3.0 minimum, but many of the UC campuses are requiring, basically you would have to get much higher than that to actually be competitive. They're not looking at the SAT anymore, but they do consider your extracurriculars, your leadership roles, your community service, your personal insight questions, etc. Okay, so they also offer bachelor's and higher options to live on campus, might qualify for the middle class scholarship, but there are capped majors and it is the most expensive of the public systems in California. Okay, private universities, let's say Point Loma Nazarene, National University, Alliant International, Stanford, USC. These vary widely. A lot of them accept what's called the Common App. Some of them are extremely selective. Some of them are not as selective. So you just have to look up that college and find out what are they about and you know, how expensive is the tuition, and also how difficult or easy is it to get in. Typically, private colleges don't charge out-of-state tuition, okay, because tuition is the same for every student because they don't take any tax money. They all offer bachelor's degrees and higher. They all have on-campus options. They tend to be smaller and sometimes have really good small class sizes and good access to the faculty. They also tend to have the largest financial aid packages, but on the downside, the limit to that is that, that they offer those big packages because they are the most expensive, more expensive than any of the public systems. Okay. I'm going to kind of skip through because I want to get to the money part. Okay. Okay. How much does college cost? Obviously, there's more cost to college than just tuition, but tuition is kind of the big important one that varies a lot from college to college. You might kind of pay similar or the same for dorms or food or things like that anywhere you go, but for the tuition, that's the big difference. So at a community college, if you were to get no financial aid and pay just out of pocket and you took full-time classes for 1 year, the tuition would be about $1,400. Okay. With the Promise Scholarship, you basically can get 2 years full-time free tuition. At a CSU, right now, the tuition's at about $8,000 a year. At a UC, right now, the tuition is at about $15,000 a year. At private universities, it varies, but usually they're going to be $40,000 or more per year just for the tuition portion. I talked about the other parts of the cost of attendance beside the tuition. Of course, there's also books and supplies. And then there's other things that honestly you would need to have whether you were a college student or not. Like you have to have a place to live and you have to have food to eat. You have to have transportation. There are miscellaneous supplies. You probably want something like a cell phone, a laptop, Wi-Fi access, you know, health insurance, those types of things. So if we say the total cost of attendance to attend 1 year of a UC school is $34,000 a year, a lot of those are not necessarily charged by the school. The tuition part is definitely charged by the school, and the books and supplies. The other things, it depends where you live, how you choose to live, how you choose to eat, how you choose to get around, and a lot of those other things. But a financial aid package, if you qualify, might cover the entire cost of attendance. Depends. All right. So how should you pay for college? The first thing I want you to do is not just know the sticker price of college, because that is important, but also you want to know how much financial aid can I expect to receive versus how much would we as a family have to pay out of pocket, okay? These are the ways that I'm going to say are options for paying for college. The first one is to save money, whether you do that, you know, in a jar under your bed, whether you do that in a savings account, whether you do that in a California 529 tax deferred savings plan, however you do it, savings is one way that you could pay for college. I also encourage everybody as a 12th grader to prepare to fill out either a FAFSA or a DREAM Act, and you also fill it out every year you're in college. The FAFSA is if a student does have a social security number. The DREAM Act is if the student does not have a social security number, okay? They're essentially the same form though. The FAFSA just tells you if you're eligible for any federal or state aid. The DREAM Act is only state of California aid. Once you fill out that FAFSA or DREAM Act, then it will tell you any grants you might qualify for, like a Pell Grant, a Cal Grant, a Promise Grant, a UC Blue and Gold Grant, any work study you qualify for. That's where you can get a part-time job in college. Any loans that you qualify for. Don't worry, you're not obligated to take a loan just if you're offered one. So some people get confused and they say, I heard the FAFSA means you have to take a loan. It doesn't. They can offer one to you, but you're never obligated to take it. But it does let you know how much the government will give you in an education loan. Also, scholarships are another great way to pay for college, and you can accept, if you earn multiple scholarships, you can accept multiple scholarships and apply them all. They usually go to your college's financial aid office. And yes, many students get and apply multiple scholarships to their college expenses. So it's not like you're limited to one, okay? And also loans are another way. Now, loans are not free. You have to pay them back. So as a family, you probably want to decide, are we going to say yes or no to loans for college? If we're not, where can we go to college that we can afford it in other ways? Or if you are going to take a loan, decide on what is our limit that we would borrow a year. And also, what's the return on investment? Is my student going into a job or career where they could help pay back this loan money? Or am I really able to pay it back? Or is it maybe not such a lucrative career and maybe a loan isn't a good idea? Okay. So there's big changes in the FAFSA. You might have heard on the news. So they've made it the first huge overhaul of the FAFSA this year, the first time in like 40 years. There's some things that have been around for that long, like the EFC that's going away. So you used to have what's called an EFC, an expected family contribution, that when you filled out the FAFSA, that's what they basically said, this dollar amount is what we would expect your family to pay toward college every year. That's changed. It's now called the SAI, or the Student Aid Index. I guess they thought that would be less confusing. I don't know. It's based on your family size and income. Your EFC could be negative $1,500. It could be $0. It could be $5,000. It could be $50,000. It all depends on your family size and your family income. And basically, the lower your SAI, the more need-based aid you qualify for. The higher your SAI, unfortunately, the more you'd have to look at things like savings and scholarships, work and loans in order to pay for college costs, because you might not be as eligible for the need-based aid. Cost of attendance is something that varies from college to college, mostly because of tuition. But your SAI doesn't change. Your SAI is the same for your family, no matter where you go to college. It's the COA, the cost of attendance, that changes. Okay, so what are these forms? The FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. That is if the student is a US citizen or a permanent resident. If, however, the student has no social security number, then they fill out the California DREAM Act. And again, the difference is the FAFSA tells you any federal and state money you might qualify for. The DREAM Act only tells you state of California money. Okay, so you fill out the FAFSA or DREAM Act in grade 12. It's usually due March 2nd, although this year it's been extended to April 2nd, and I heard it might even be extended to May 2nd. And you resubmit it once a year, every year while the student is in college. And by the way, they will still count the parent's income all the way until the student is 24 years old. So even if you're not supporting someone who is 18 and above, even if you say, sorry, you're on your own, the government will consider your income until that student is 24. There are some other ways that students can file as independent, but that is like if they are married themselves, if they have a spouse, if they have a child, if they're in the military, if they are a foster student, or if they are homeless or at risk of being homeless. Those are really the only situations where a student can file as independent. Other than that, they will still consider the family income until age 24. Once you apply to a college, if you get in, and once you file a FAFSA or DREAM Act, The college will send you, usually in spring of 12th grade, a financial aid package. So they'll show you, we're bundling everything together, any grants that you got, any work study, any loans you were offered, any Cal grants, any middle class scholarship, any institutional aid like a Promise or a Blue and Gold, anything from our institution. They put it all together in a package and they give it to you and they say, here's what we can offer you. And then based on that, you have to say, okay, this is great. It pays my whole cost of attendance, or this is not so great because it includes a loan, or whoa, this is way too little. We'd have to pay too much out of pocket. This is not affordable. It just is going to depend on your family situation, your family size, your income, the college you're going to, what their tuition is, and what they're offering. So as far as how the average family pays for college in America, you can see here that about half of the cost usually comes from parents and students and their friends and relatives, and some comes from borrowing. And then about 23% comes from grants and scholarships. Although that's a healthy amount, I would love if that got a lot bigger and that you could get scholarships to pay for half of your college or 3/4 or 100% of your college education. So I'll talk a little bit about scholarships. So what can you do right now to plan for college expenses? You can save money. A 529 savings plan will make those savings tax deferred and eventually tax exempt. Yes, the 529 does have to be listed as either a parent or student asset on the FAFSA. Okay, so it is considered an asset. The things that are not considered assets or that don't count against you on the FAFSA would be the home you live in and any retirement accounts. Investments do count as an asset. So savings accounts, stocks and bonds, rental properties, those count as businesses, farms, things like that. But the home you live in and retirement funds, they basically are exempt from looking at those. The 529 does count as an asset. Once you start taking it and spending the money from it, it's then considered income. But it is tax deferred and eventually tax exempt when you spend it. You can go to studentaid.gov. They have an aid estimator, and you can put in some real or fake numbers and see what your future aid package might look like. It's just an estimate, but they try to give you an idea. Also become familiar with scholarships so students can get ready to apply for those when it comes time. And also make sure you know once that student is a high school senior, that FAFSA or DREAM Act is coming. So get ready to fill it out. There are scholarships for low-income California students called Cal Kids. It could be up to $1,500 in free money for college. You can go to the Cal Kids website and see if your income qualifies you. It might not, but it is out there. Also, are there scholarships for younger students? Most scholarships are just for 12th graders, okay? But there are scholarships for younger students. Starting in 10th grade, you can apply for a Big Future Scholarship, which they do drawings for every month. Also, you might, if you are, for example, 13 or older, there are contests that you can sometimes enter, whether it's an essay contest, an art contest, a video contest, like the Breakthrough Junior Challenge is one that's a good one that is open. Usually, I think it's due in June, and you make a 2-minute science video. FastWeb is another great website for scholarship searches. Okay. All right. So one of the last things I'll say is when you're looking at colleges, do your own research and always think of like a reach, a match, and a safety. A reach school is like, this is a reach. I might not get in, but it's my dream school. You want to also apply to match schools, things that match your ability, your GPA. It seemed like it would be a good fit for you. And then have at least one safety school. It's a backup. If I don't get in anywhere else, I want to have a safety school or a backup plan. Okay. All right. I'm going to make this available tomorrow. I'm going to post it online on the CalSoap San Diego website. So our website is calsoapsandiego.org, and all the links that I referred to, like CA Career Zone or californiacolleges.edu, Big Future, My Majors, Cal Kids, it'll all be included on the slide deck. You can also follow us on social media. All right. And so this is me. If you want to email me with any questions, my email address is kkwhitaker@ucsd.edu. And I will go ahead, and we are almost at time. I will see if there's a couple more questions in the Q&A that I can answer. And if there are, then I will answer a few and then I will end it, and anything else you can email me. Oscar, anything else still in the Q&A?
So far, nothing else.
Okay. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and conclude for the evening. I'll thank everybody for coming. Again, I will make sure that you have access on the CalSoap San Diego website starting tomorrow. We have a webinars and blog section, and I will put this webinar and I'll include the slide deck as well. Everybody, good luck with your college journey, and let me know if you have questions. And thank you to Oscar for handling the Q&A tonight. Bye, everybody.